Hello.
Hello. Oh, there we go.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks to our sponsor, Gentleman Jack. What is this doing here?
Oh, yeah. Hold on a second. Here.
Oh. I'm going to talk in both microphones. This is Eka. Thanks for having me. I don't know what we did to deserve morning. We'll pass the bottle around if anyone... So it's like someone's trying to loosen some tongues around here. This kind of sets the stage for what kind of... we're just going to dish about the industry and gossip about people, probably is what this is. Okay, cheers.
Is that what we're going to do?
Good morning.
That's pretty good. So, Tim.
Hi.
30 years.
That's right.
More than 30 years.
Yeah, it has been it's been a long time. My advantage is that I'm really forgetful, so I kind of forget how long I've been doing this. It's like I'm the guy from Memento. I'm like, oh, another day, got to make some games.
Well, you're getting a Hall of Fame award, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really nice. Thanks, everybody. Got to stick around long enough to become respectable.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, I want to go back to 1989. You started at LucasArts. Yeah. You were there for 10 years, and they hired you as a tester and a writer and a programmer, right, initially?
I was going to be, I was hired as assistant designer programmer, and they're like, that's great. We don't have any of that to do right now, but we have some testing to do. So I tested this Indiana Jones game, and I've learned immediately I jumped off this ledge I wasn't supposed to, and I crashed the game, and it was going to ship the next day, and I just remember the look on the programmers' faces, and I was like, that's the look of the games industry right there. That's like, you did what? You found a what?
When did you get to start writing?
I've been really interested in creative writing in college and programming, so it was really perfect. It was an amazing job. And working at Skywalker Ranch was not bad either.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they did this, we had great mentors there with David Fox and Ron Gilbert and Noah Falstein and Hal Barwood. And Ron was running a class called Scum University, and Scum was the scripting language for all of those adventure games back then. And every day he'd teach us how to do something new in Scum, and then we'd come up in the afternoon and see it. And we didn't have any real game art. We had all the Loom art, and we had all the Sam and Max art that Steve Purcell had done downstairs. And so we were just making crazy things happen in Scum. And I think Dave Grossman and I were doing the jokiest stuff. And so Ron picked us to work on Monkey Island after that.
Yeah, and you did two of those with Ron.
Two of those. The first one was like, I took a whole 9 months to make. It's like,
my goodness. 9 months. And you're like, this is how easy it's going to be
for the rest. That was long. I never want to see pirates again. Yeah.
And then there's a game called Full Throttle that you got to lead on. And
Day of the Tentacle.
Yep.
It was a really amazing setup because we were sitting on a pile of Star Wars money, but we couldn't do any Star Wars stuff. They're like, no, that's all. Someone else has the rights to that. So you guys have to make up a bunch of stuff with all this money. It's like, really spoiled me for I guess that's what I'll do my whole career is make up stuff with other people's money. Easy.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah, it's a nice work if you can get it.
Yeah. So Full Throttle is a game that's dear to my heart because that's a game I played. I was like, wait, there's people that make this stuff? I want to be doing this. And that was I never played anything like that. It was very cinematic. And I was playing a bunch of adventure games were big back then. And there was a lot of them, but nothing like Full Throttle. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks for playing. We were always trying to there were a lot of games in the 90s. It seemed like all games were science fiction or fantasy. Like everything was one or the other. And we were like, what else is there? There's pirates, and there's bikers, and there's, and it felt a little easier back then to just come up with stuff. And nowadays, games are covering everything, which is what I like the most about the games industry now. But
yeah, there's a lot going on.
But bikers definitely was like a kind of romantic world in my eyes. And I pitched it to management, and they're like, what are they going to? They're going to sell drugs and beat people up? And I was like, do bikers do that? I didn't really... I'd seen the Wild One, and I'd seen, I just thought they drove around and looked cool.
Yeah. Was there a lot of research to figure out what bikers did?
I read a Hunter S. Thompson book.
Okay, there you go. That's all you need.
I rode a motorcycle a little bit.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were there for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I want to know, how did you start Double Fine? Did you have money? Did no one get paid? How did that start?
I did have some Full Throttle money. Full Throttle was strange in the adventure games that we made in that it made a bunch of money. And I was like, I'll just put my whole life savings into this thing and started the company. I think the thing that allowed me to start a company was just complete ignorance of what was going on. Don't advise it for anybody. But I was like, I don't know if this is hard or easy, but I'd seen a lot of people had left Lucas and started companies by that point. I was like, well, they're doing it, I can do it. And and I just, you had a game idea, had some friends, and we're pitching it, and the Xbox launched, the very first Xbox. And Freeze was down at GDC giving a talk about it, and I gave a talk about character design, and he saw the talk, and we started talking about games on the Xbox, and that helped out a lot.
That's awesome.
But I paid everyone, and my life savings was gone, so it really had to work.
How many?
Really had to work.
How many of you? There's like a garage office you guys had, right? Back
It was an old clog shop. There was a clog, still little bits of leather and wood around, and we were making games there for a while. Then a warehouse that wasn't heated, but it's just really exciting. All the things that were bad about it were what was exciting about it when you're a startup, and you're like, we have no heat. Woo. You know, it's like, it's that lasts for just like a little while, and then it's like we would really like some heat.
Yeah.
And some air conditioning.
Heat's good.
Heat's good, and fewer rats.
Okay.
Fewer rats.
Yeah. That's not too bad of a request. I don't think so.
Yeah.
And then Psychonauts, we started on that.
That's right. We started on Psychonauts, and that was quite an adventure, because that was putting this team together. I tried to put together people from kind of outside the industry, like our art director Scott Campbell, and make games that didn't look like games looked back then, and we're trying to do everything different. I remember Jeff Keighley saw it early on. He goes, like, you don't have to reinvent everything. You can just have a menu. It's like, all right, we'll have a menu.
Yeah, I think that's what I really appreciate about, especially Psychonauts and all your previous games. It's just they're very unique and creative, and there's nothing like it. And it's been just a great career of amazing, unique games. So, like, congrats to you. Just
what a
on that.
great way to end. Thanks, everybody. That's an amazing. Wait a second.
No. Oh, wait.
Oh, now what are we going to talk about?
Oh, I thought we only had 5 minutes to chat. My bad. Yeah. So Psychonauts went on for like 5 years.
Yeah. So. I mean, we. Again, kind of underestimating our task, we were kind of like, well, we're a bunch of PC graphic adventure makers. I'm sure we can make a console platformer.
Yeah.
Just, And so there was a lot of learning and a lot of stress, and the team was all very new, and so we were kind of all learning together. And it was the game where we had because of all that inexperience. In that genre, we had to redo a ton of stuff, and then we had the pressures of, we got canceled, we lost our contract, we had to get a new contract, and we had the worst crunch mode we'd ever had before, and that was the crunch mode where the team was like, let's never do that again, let's never do that, do we have to crunch? And we started researching production methodologies to like avoid crunch in the future, and it's been one of our kind of founding things. If you ever apply for a job at Double Fine, then one of the questions is like, how do you feel about crunch mode? Like, especially producers. When producers come in, it's like, how do you prevent crunch? Because the team is like, we never want to go back there again.
Yeah, I mean, I've done my share. 25 years in the game industry. It was like we're figuring things out as we go, especially now. But I think things are much better now than they were.
It's better. Then. It still can happen. Basically, when anything goes wrong, I think that's the thing though that's important to know about crunch mode is that it's not normal. Yeah. It means something went wrong. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but you have to like figure out what went wrong to make that happen and then fix it.
Yeah, and especially when you're making something weird and unique as Psychonauts, like how do you know when is it good enough, right? Like how do you know when it's good enough?
Oh God, that's the thing. You look at something and you're like, it just doesn't feel. We really want the levels in Psychonauts to like surprise people, be something they haven't seen in the game before, also satisfy all the narrative needs of the characters. And since it's set, Psychonauts, every level is set inside someone's mind. It like tells the story of that person's mental condition and what they're going through, and so it has a lot of pressure on it. And we just keep trying different things until something's like, wait, that feels new. That feels like Black Velvet. I haven't seen that feels fresh, And so it just you can kind of sense those things.
Yeah, that's what takes so much time, right? It's just the iterating on it and trying to get to a very unique place where this hasn't been done before. Idea, that just takes too much time.
It's hard. The old guard LucasArts folks would talk about Idea 23, how when you brainstorm with people, you pull the first book off the shelf, like the first idea off the shelf, and it doesn't work. Second one doesn't work. Third one works, and you're like, well, let's stop there. And they're like, well, or we can keep going. And you'll keep pulling books off the shelf that don't work, and everyone's like, go back to idea number 3, but really Idea 23 is the amazing one. And it's like, do you have the intestinal fortitude to keep pulling terrible books off the shelf and sit there in that meeting while this sense of dread takes over you? And the premise there was that that's worth it. And I think that's up for debate. Like some people might be like, look, Depends on what time it is, how much money is left, and how tired we are. Like, let's. But I think if you have the time and if it's early on and everyone has the same open-minded attitude, it's worth going to like something really new that hasn't been done before. I think
it's the best time to do that right in the beginning. Just yes, and to everything. Then for
us,
us,
everyone's
like,
in a good mood.
Yeah, for us, it's like, when do we run out of money? Okay, let me make sure we ship before that, and then try to design a game around that.
That's a great idea. I think that's something we should try. That's amazing.
I mean, we don't always hit that. Sometimes we have to get more money.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had to do that.
Sometimes have to go get more money. Yeah.
So,
Not anymore.
Psychonauts.
Yeah.
And then Brutal Legend.
Yes, Brutal Legend.
That was
I had to deepen my voice
movie.
for Brutal Legend to sound like Eddie Riggs. That was, all the games we make, there's something really personal about each one. And I grew up loving heavy metal and listening to heavy metal all my life, and imagining these kind of video, like rock videos in my head as I'm driving, and like, can I ever turn these into a game? And it was just a great opportunity. And we were basing a lot of the character on, like, inspired by Jack Black. And then someone was like, what if you actually called Jack Black? Would maybe he?
Is that how it happened? You were like,
we kept using his reference. Like, this character's like it's like a love child between Jack Black and Glenn Danzig. Like, if they had not had a baby, but just made out a little bit, is what we said. And that was a joke I told Jack, and he laughed. And I was like, oh yeah, we got it.
You got him. Got him on the joke.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that, and then we had some, through Vivendi, who was the publisher back then, they had some connections with him, and set up a meeting. And once we had Jack, it was easier to get Ozzy and Lemmy and all the other, Rob Halford, all the great metal stars that we got in that game.
Yeah, just the wild world.
I'm gonna drink this.
Oh yeah,
I feel like I'm wasting this all. Thank you, sponsors. They're not really sponsoring us, but if anyone wants to rush up here with another bottle, they're welcome to sponsor.
We're supposed to display the bottle with the logo forward. Okay.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
This
sponsor
is just the
Megan's
last minute
Scavio.
thing. I know. Thanks, Megan.
Thanks, Megan.
What were we talking about? Brutal Legend.
Yeah. That was great. That was
so
amazing.
at that point, you had worked with a bunch of different publishers. Tell me about that.
Well, we like to get around.
Yeah.
I mean, pitching publishers, what that's like. You get to meet a lot of interesting folks.
I'm probably sure half the folks here are pitching right now, like I am.
Hey, raise your hand if you're pitching. Anyone pitching right now? Who needs money out there? That's, hey, now I can actually see people. There's some, old friends out there in the audience. Good to see you all.
Hey.
Just, a lot of times these trade shows, I kind of associate with asking for money. That's usually what I'm doing at one of these trade shows. And even when I hear my phone alarm go off, I have this sense, even when I'm just at home, and it's reminding me to take the spaghetti off or whatever. I'm like, oh, I got to go ask for money. Just like a trigger. So it's nice to be here not looking.
So this is the first dice that you're not looking for money.
Yeah, I don't need any money right now. Yes. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's because in 2019,
we got
Microsoft acquired Double Fine.
That's right. That was an awesome thing that I never thought we would go for. Like, it wasn't really part of our plan to get acquired. But in the back of my head, I was kind of always thinking of, we should do this and we should do this in case we wanted to get acquired someday. Like, we always held on to our IP rights. We always, and then after Brutal Legend, we tried to start putting forth other people besides me as the leaders of these projects, like Lee Petty and Brad Muir and other people, to run projects so that the company is not just the Tim show all the time.
So Brutal was a big project, right?
It was huge.
How many folks were on that?
For us, it was really big, and I think it got up to like 75.
Oh, wow.
It's not a lot by modern
Today's
standards,
but
for a little indie
Double
studio.
Fine, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
And then after that, you decided to do Amnesia Fortnite. To try to get other folks in the smaller projects.
Yeah, we'd done this game jam. It was in the middle of, because Brutal was a 5-year project too. And I felt like, I love heavy metal, but I think other people might need a little creative break from this. And let's just stop what we're doing for 2 weeks, and everyone break into 4 groups, and they all have to make a game in 2 weeks. And it was crazy. And it came up with a bunch of ideas. And then we did it again. And then we finished Brutal Legend, and then we started Brutal Legend 2. We were going to do that, and the publisher was like, just for a little bit. Okay. We'd do the first design doc, and then the publisher was like, oh, we don't actually want to do that. And we were left. We'd burned through all of our money, and we're like, oh God, what are we going to do? But we had these 8 demos. We had 8 Amnesia Fortnite demos that we had made, and so we picked our favorite 4, and we took them on the road, pitched them to everybody, and signed all 4 of them, and that's how we started making smaller games for a while, and got into eventually like self-publishing, stuff. So keeping nimble was really important. Part of our
and then
survival.
Totally. I mean, I've done that multiple times where like, yeah, this thing's going to happen. We're going to build this prototype out, and then they're like, well, we decided to go another way. And you're like, well, shit. What do we do now, right? Because, you know, for a small indie, like a month is a long time, like, you know, or payroll and every other month. And for publishers, sometimes it's like, we couldn't get everybody in the room, so let's meet again in 2 months.
Yeah, let's put it off for 2 months. So 2 months, okay, you'll meet with our ghosts.
Yeah, we're done.
That's going to be
we're
left.
Done in 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So Amnesia Fortnite allowed other folks to run smaller teams, and I watched some of the documentary stuff. That seemed like some of them were like, this is nerve-wracking and this is all new, but I'm sure they appreciate it. I mean, they all got better at it over time.
I mean, it's very exciting, and at the time, we're like, well, here are these new managers. Nowadays, it would occur to me like we should train them. Back then, it was like, I don't know how to do that. It was like sink or swim. Try it out. See who survives. and so then I think that's really how the games industry is a lot. Like a lot of people who are managers in the games industry did not come out of, like some people, did not come out of Harvard Management School, right? Yeah. They didn't. I mean, I'm just saying, like they didn't get promoted. Some of them did get promoted because they're great managers, but most of us got promoted because we had a game idea. Mm-hmm. Like, here's a great game idea. Okay, run it. And you see sometimes the fallout of this in the game industry, and it's definitely happened on my projects. Is that like you had to learn how to manage on the job.
Yep.
And that was, sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I learned the same way. They're like, hey, that's a great idea. Go run the project. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
you just try not to be a jerk while you're doing it, and they'll often forgive your mistakes. That's the difference. One of the differences I've seen. If you're a jerk about it, they'll be like, get out of here.
Yeah, I think these days there's more resources for folks.
Yeah, but not enough. I really still think like it's hard to find good management training for games that understand the creative process, because games are weird. As one of our CTOs said once, it's like it's the complexity of software multiplied by the subjectivity of art.
Yeah.
So it's like it's complex and like hard to see where it ends, but that's also what we often like about it too. Yeah. Like the fact that you don't exactly know how it's going to end.
Yeah, it's not like, okay, we did this task, it's done on a list, but is the game good enough? Who makes that call? You know, and how does it stand out? That's always I never know on that. Yeah. We try to figure it out along the way.
I feel like a lot of people who like focus at the beginning of their careers, like me, like got to get this game done, it's got to be perfect, have started to become more aware of like and how much harm did we do along, like how many game teams got left in the wake of that horrible like production process, and how can we do more to get to that destination with everyone on the crew happy and healthy and
not burned out.
Yeah, and not burned out. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what we're learning too. That's when we started our studio 5 years ago. It's like, fully remote then, before everyone else was doing it. And how do we do that? Because I was burned out. I spent 20 years before that on various projects and teams, and I was like, I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to miss days with my kids. So trying to figure out how to do that better, how to scope better.
How'd you do that better? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Thirsty Suitors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. This is about you here. Mm-hmm. I'll mention briefly, but we switched to a 4-day work week a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. We're fully remote, so like just more flexibility with folks, and then work with our publisher, just setting things up. Annapurna, they've been great with us. Just setting up milestones and features and things we come up with, and being really good about cutting things if they aren't moving along. And we try to throw stuff away early, and then we play test a lot with external folks. Mm-hmm. And so the team can see like, oh, what is important here? What's not? What's the player think? You were one of our early playtesters.
That was great. It was good back then.
Yeah, and you're like, this thing is fucking good. You should.
I tried to be mean about it, but I was having fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we're still figuring it out, but like just really putting the team first and their mental health and their time and trying to schedule work around their life more than the other way around, especially through pandemic. Yeah.
Hybrid work though has these like secret things we don't know about yet. I think it's still relatively new for a lot of people, and I see there's a lot of parts of it that people think are fine and relaxing, but are also kind of depressing people.
Yeah,
it's like I think there's people forget they get energy from being around other people. Some people do, and some people don't. It's different for everybody, but a lot of it is you come here, like sometimes I have a dread of like, oh, I'm going to see a bunch of people. I don't want to see a bunch of people. And I run into them and I'm like, oh, that's right. People are great. Yeah. I like people. That's funny. I thought I hated people. That's because I was in my room by myself. That's why I hated people.
Yeah.
But now I'm here. Everyone's great. You're all great. It's nice to see you all.
For now.
Stay 6 feet away, but you're great.
That's the thing we definitely miss. Like, we try to build in time, but over video is not the same thing as in person. So we've been trying to get the whole team together, but we're spread across 4 continents. So like, now we're finally gonna do that at some point soon. So
Just take everyone to Hawaii. I've heard that works for some companies.
yeah. If you work at Valve.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna name names, but that's before the whiskey. Then you're like, let's name names.
It's employees and all their families.
Yeah, we do that too.
Yeah, you're part of Microsoft. You got Microsoft money.
No, we don't got Hawaii money.
What are we talking about?
I don't know.
Oh,
Thirsty suitors.
So pitching, how is it different now? You still have to do projects and pitch to somebody. Who do you pitch to, and what is that like? Yeah,
we I didn't. We were looking to be acquired, but then I met Matt Booty. You know, Matt
Booty. You just like saying Matt Booty.
Sweet talking Matt Booty. Well, no, he was talking about what they really wanted to do with these studios was not to take them on and use them as like outsourcing things for like Halo projects or anything like that. That's what that joke was I made on stage when we got acquired. Was like, we'll do Halo stuff for you, but not really. They didn't want to do that. They didn't want to change who we were. They wanted us to stay who we were and just make a lot of great games that they could put on Xbox and put on PC and put on a Game Pass and Game Pass was actually a big attraction to me because it's like the barrier to entry of trying out a game like ours, like Double Fine's games try to be surprising and weird on purpose. So like if you're in a physical game store holding a game that costs $70 and you're like, should I try to play this game with this weird looking art on it? It's like it's kind of scary, but when Game Pass all you do is download it, the barrier to entry is so low. Yeah. I was like, that's kind of where I think that we belong. And so now we share our games, and we're at a concept stage. We're like, this is what we're thinking about making. And true to their word, they've just been like, that looks great, that looks awesome. So it's totally different. Like usually you pitch a game, and we would always hear the C word, which is creative. Like, oh, that's really creative. And then we just be, oh, this meeting's over.
They're like, we don't think this thing is going to sell, but it's really unique.
Creative means not selling, right? They're like, oh,
we're not getting our money back on this.
This looks really like poverty to me, this game. When I look at this looks like low stock price is what this game looks like to me.
We hope somebody funds this, but it's not going to be us.
Yeah, really, I would like to play this game, and I hope somebody funds you guys.
Yeah.
Someone. Oh, God. Not that I'm bitter. I'm not bitter. People, no one here at DICE who's pitched a lot is bitter, right?
No, not at all. I remember everyone that passed on our games. Yeah, I keep a list.
Oh, I got a list.
I keep lists.
It's easy to keep a list on people that pass on our games because it's everybody. Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about Game Pass more. Not that this is a Microsoft thing, but like...
Hey, let's talk about Game Pass. It's amazingly low price. So many games.
We Thirsty Suitors is a weird game, and we're like, okay, if we put it on Game Pass, there's a chance that someone's going to pick it up that normally wouldn't have, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not supposed to be.
So...
That's our real sponsor today, Game Pass.
Game Pass. Are they a real sponsor? No. I don't know.
They bought my ticket here.
So you released the Psychonauts 2 documentary.
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. No one's going to watch. It's too long. No one's going to watch it.
So I was going to watch like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
There's 32 parts.
Yeah.
And I watched all of it.
Yes.
And I was texting you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is so raw. And you're like, oh, no, did you get to the bad parts yet? There's some moments.
I know. People are like, oh my God, this thing is really raw and honest. I'm on episode 4, and I'm like, oh no. Oh man, you're going to have a whole journey ahead of you. It is very, I mean, it's not a marketing tool. Like a lot of times when a making of documentary gets made, it's a marketing tool for the game. And there's a tendency to kind of whitewash everything. And we always wanted to, this documentary crew, 2-Player Productions, came to us when we were making other things. They're like, we want to make a documentary about you making a game, and we can Kickstart it. And I was like, what's Kickstarter? And then we was like, let's Kickstart that game. And so we Kickstarted this game, and it blew up, and it came really big. And it took long enough to make that, like, we're out of money. And so we took them on the payroll. And so they're embedded in our office, and they're just filming us every day. And they're also being, really helpful making trailers for us and being really useful in that way. But they're also in the back of all our meetings filming us. And so they have, like, 7 years of footage of us thinking about this game. And it's amazing to watch. It's amazing. I feel like it's an amazing tool for me to like see like a postmortem on the game, but also just to see all the creative work of all the people on the team. Because I'm often locked in my room writing, and you'll see these meetings where people are coming up with stuff that's ended up in the game, and just artists and programmers and everybody. And it's really fun. So I mean, I'm not afraid of that raw stuff, because anyone who works in games, I think if you watch it, you should watch it. It's an amazing two-player did an amazing job making a really like compelling and entertaining and really honest documentary. But I think anyone watching it would be like, yep, I've been in that meeting, been in that meeting, I've been in that meeting. And it sounds like it would be re-traumatizing for you. But I think it's told, like, it's such a human story that you care about all the humans in it. And I think it's one of the things I've always liked about shows like DICE is like, you come in, you talk to people, and you're like, oh my God, I thought I was the only person having this problem. And you meet everybody, and like a lot of people are having this problem that you're having, and that's what that doc is all about, is watching it and be like, oh man.
Yeah, it was like super inspiring, and there's moments of anxiety. It's up and down, but it's really like I was compelled to keep watching it. So it was,
and it's the lesson. The weird lesson for me is that was after like 20 years of being around. Like, and you watch us in the beginning of the document, we're a little cocky because we're like, yeah, we already made one of these Psychonauts games. This one's going to be like super easy, and then everything happens. And it teaches you like you're never done learning. Every game is different, every game has its own challenges, and you never hit this point in your games career where you're like, well, I know everything now I just got to turn the crank and keep making games. But there's new challenges every time.
When was the first time you felt in any of your games you're like, okay, I made it, this is the one? Was there a feeling like, hey, I'm successful, or I'm well known, or people like our stuff?
I remember I was driving across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I was like, Full Throttle going to come out, and they were like, we're going to put your name on the front. And I was like, whoa, you could just feel, it's a good thing I have a convertible, because my head just grew like 8 sizes.
On the box.
Yeah, on the front of the box. And that was something in the old days we fought for, partially because Ron was just like, you're putting my name on the box, for Monkey Island. And he got the proofs for it. And he's like, everyone's like, do you like this cover? And he made his name twice as big and sent it back as a joke. And they did it. They printed it that way. So, and part of that was like, we were, there's like this history back in the earliest days when Atari like never announced the names of their designers, and Warren Robinette stuck his name as an Easter egg in the game, and I always thought that was cool. And I was like, I think someone should be on this box, and we put the artists on the back of the box, and just to say, and this goes in line with the documentary, this like human beings make games. Like there's some name. It's not just a corporation that made this game. It's a list. It's a named person, and one person does not make a game all by themselves. But at least you start with one person, and then eventually, like if you watch the doc, you'll see how many human beings it takes to make a video game. Because when I was young and I wanted to work in video games, I was programming my Atari 400, making games in BASIC, and I wrote a letter to Analog Magazine, like, how can I get a job in video games? And then I never heard back from them. And I was like, well, I guess you can't. I guess it's corporations and scientists and robots and stuff that make these things, and I never will. And then I studied creative writing and eventually, luckily, saw this listing for LucasArts for programmers who could write. And as if I hadn't seen that, I don't know what I would end up doing, because this is weird set of skills.
Yeah.
And so taking that all back to just the more you can share that human beings make games, you're also helping people visualize, like, oh, I didn't know that sounds got edited. I didn't know people produced things. Like, there's all these jobs in games people don't know happen, and you can see someone doing it, and then you can imagine yourself doing that. Because when I was a kid, I was like, what am I going to do for a living? Well, I see that guy in the record store. Maybe I could work in a record store, which is a cool job. I did have that job.
That's a cool job.
That was a cool job.
I work in a comic book store.
Yeah.
That also had magic tricks. I was doing magic tricks.
Oh, do you know any trick? Can you do a trick right now?
No.
Randy's gone. He was sitting right there. He's gone. He won't see you.
No,
you can do one.
Not in front
I know
of Randy
it's intimidating to do a trick in front of Randy, but
no, I don't remember any of it.
Later.
So I want to talk about, people always like, why doesn't Tim do movies or shows? And because he's such a good writer. I want to talk about, like, writing in games is a very different thing than writing for TV or movies. The whole like gameplay part of it and how that fits in. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, because games are cool. Film is dead. Like, you guys, come on. No, video games are just what I like, what I love, and I think writing for them is so fun, because it's like you're building, a haunted house or like a fun house. You're building this thing that it's like there's this one improvisational actor who's going to come through your fun house and just make up stuff, and you got to deal with whatever possible thing they can do, and that's really fun to build. It's just like this kind of house of dialogue and words, and I never like. There have been some great recent like adaptations of video games into movies, but often I always feel like smugly say, like, if you made a great sculpture, you would be like, oh, you should take a picture of that. you should you should transfer that art into another art. It's like, I don't know, games are like what they are. They're in their most beautiful form as games to me. So that's what I.
Yeah, when you remove the sort of the pleasure of the interactivity part of it in between the storytelling, like it would be a really bad script. Like if you just took the script from a game and tried to put it on screen, which I think, like The Last of Us and things like that are, obviously they have to make changes for that to work. It's a whole different thing.
And it's all about like the mental state you're in when you play games is different than movies, and they're both valuable and great, but some things are enhanced when you're in an interactive state that are just interesting to me.
Yeah, you feel like a sense of pride for doing things, a sense of accomplishment, which you don't really get from watching a show. It's a different thing.
And for me, the most exciting feeling when I'm playing games is exploration. I just love like what is in here, like what is pushing back through the wardrobe in like Narnia. Like that feeling is like so magical in games, and it can definitely happen in movies, but like in games when you're like, can I go around this corner? Oh my God, there's a secret room. That's my favorite.
Yeah, finding the edges of what the game can do is it's a real fun pleasure. Kickstarter, 2012.
2012.
You guys launched in, I think it was March.
Yeah.
For Broken Age.
Yeah.
And what was the ask for it?
We wanted to make a game, because the documentary crew said they need $100,000 to make a documentary.
Okay.
And I was like, well, a publisher won't let us make a documentary about something without editing it down, so let's fund it ourselves. We'll kickstart a game for $300,000. We'll do it like in Flash. Remember Flash?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the plan. And then it just blew up. It turned into it went all the way like to 1 million and then 2 million. And the team was like, oh my God, and then 3 million. And that was really exciting. And it was fun to, it was like the voice of the fans was louder than it had ever been before. Like, there used to be these kind of a small group of gatekeepers deciding what games got made. But now the fans themselves were like, no, we're going to make graphic adventures. This one right here. So that was very exciting.
Yeah, we saw that at the company I was at the time. We're like, we should do our Kickstarter too, because we're out of money at the time. And I think we launched August. And I think that there's like that sweet year, 2012, 2013, when you could do a Kickstarters for games, and people would carry it in the press, and they were excited about it. But I think there was a flood of stuff after that.
And they exposed a lot of the challenges, which is that games take a long time to make.
Yeah.
So you got people who pay a bunch of money and then they wait around, they hear these stories like, is everything okay? Because it exposed what we all knew, which is that games are like this kind of shit show. I mean, like development, obviously not yours, but mine.
No, I mean
there's game development, like so many things can go wrong and they're so complicated, and,
exactly.
and things get delayed, and usually you never hear about them until they're about to ship, and so you just like everything looks like it's under control. And then Kickstarter put visibility on the game the whole time, and you started to see more and more projects that are kind of like struggling to stay on the rails. And
every project's completely broken until like the last couple of months. Even the AAA ones, you just don't see that, and it's a mess. If you're just like going on faith that it's going to come together because you know the team.
Because people don't realize games. A lot of times games are terrible. Like they suck until like a few months before they ship. They're like, especially narrative-based games where so much of it is based on like, does the player understand the narrative? And often you're getting cutscenes in really late, and so. Games often are, and that's hard for the team because they're playing it and they're like, are we making a bad game? Are we this game bad?
Yeah.
It still feels like it's bad and we're shipping this year. Should it be this bad? No.
Yeah. When you get the sound in and the music comes in and the effects, everything.
Yeah, it's all gonna be, the music's gonna make this fun, you guys. Wait till we get the echo on this thing.
That's gonna be it. That's it. That one feature is gonna put it over the top. Oh my goodness. So a lot of games over the years. So Double Fine is over 20 years old now.
Yeah. We started in 2000. In the year 2000.
Wow.
22 years. Yeah.
So, what's your appetite for games and scale these days?
You mean making them?
Making them, yeah.
I mean, it goes up and down. Like Psychonauts, I was like, I want to do a game about the size of the Psychonauts game should be. But we also are doing, like, now we having other project leaders make games that are a little smaller. And there's no really what set size. I think a game tells you how big it should be. Like a certain amount of ideas you can create variety out of those ideas for a certain size, and I think there's no real rule. That's another great thing about Game Pass. Like, we always wanted to make smaller games. Back at LucasArts, we're like, the adventure games, they cost so much money. Can we just make like a $15 game or something? And like, the retail doesn't know where to put that on the shelves.
Right.
And now you can just put games of any size on Game Pass, and so it takes down that barrier, so we can be that flexible.
Is your writing process changed over the years?
Yeah, I think I tried to do, as you get older, your brain gets really smooth. I don't know if you noticed that. Well, you're young, you don't know, but no, it's like.
I'm pretty old too.
Like, it's the same in that I try to do free writing every day. I get worse and worse at doing that. You know, in the early days, it was really easy to free write. But, you know, so that free writing is sitting down with your notebook and just writing for some set amount of time without thinking about it. And so I still ostensibly do that. I just don't often have the same discipline that I had when I was younger. And focus. Oh, man, you don't want to know what happens to your focus when you get older. Wasn't good to begin with.
Yeah, I think you have to be more disciplined, right? Like I have 2 kids and I'm trying to run a studio while making a game and doing all this stuff. I feel like I have to really focus on the time I have.
I think the key, especially if you have a company and you want to have that distributed, is like trying to learn some lessons from writing rooms, you know, they have in TV and stuff, is where, because writers can be really isolated. Like that thing I was talking about, forgetting that you like people. You're in your room, you're writing, I can't be around anyone, I'm writing, leave me alone. And I can't share because these ideas are so precious and fragile. And learning to like share ideas when they're precious and fragile and just not being married to them and just like being in a room full of people where you're all just kind of bouncing off each other's creativity is something that helps you, I think, survive a little bit longer as a writer and not go lonely and isolated.
Yeah. Are you happy with how Psychonauts 2 came out?
I'm really proud of that. Yeah, I love that game, and it's the team, like, it's amazing because you watch the documentary and it's like there's certain points where, like, there are certain points where I didn't know it was going to be good. I was like, this is just really struggling. And I almost feel like if I could, like, Men in Black everybody in the world, be like, we're not making Psychonauts 2. I might have just taken it back. I was like, well, we're out there. We have to push through the other side. It has to be good. You know, there's so many talented people on that team that worked really hard to make that happen. And then the fact that it came out good, it probably changes completely how I feel about that documentary. Like, if it turned out bad, there's a documentary about this terrible game that we made, but we were, you know, nominated for Game of the Year. I mean, better ending the doc if we'd won Game of the Year. So Keeley really blew it on that ending. Like, narrative-wise, really blew the narrative of that story. But nominated is pretty great. It was
That's
great.
good. Yeah, I mean, it turned out well. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for playing.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, it's like some cool-ass levels and moments.
Some cool-ass levels in that. Yes.
The thing I think about the documentary, and go back to it because I just finished watching it, the timeline of, because like every chapter had like, September 2019, December 2019, February 2020, and that was the thing that gave me anxiety. I was like, oh my God, COVID's coming. And they have no idea. They're like, we're going to ship this thing this year in 4 months. We'll be fine.
It's going to be great. And I don't think they left that meeting. There was a meeting where, like, do you guys actually think we should shut down the company? People are freaking out. They're like, because we had been through, everyone's been through this whole process, but we had been through SARS and H1N1 and a bunch of, like, this is going to kill us all, like The Stand. And then and Ebola. Like, a lot of things didn't get to where we were, you know, and I was like, this is just another one of those. But it did kind of start to feel weird. And my favorite, the chilling moment in the doc for me is when Tazio, our effects artist from Copenhagen, is like, oh shit, Denmark just closed. I was like, what's happening? Why would Denmark close? And so we all lived through that, but it was like that. Those moments are captured in the doc, and there are all these moments like various terrorist attacks and stuff. You can see like the team is being affected by this stuff, and we're trying to talk about making this silly game while like there are all these moments where the world was falling apart, and we're like, okay, let's work on the jump distance.
Yeah, I think those were the best moments for me because I was like, I remember all this stuff. You know, it's not just about the game, but like the people involved and what they're going through, and you know, reality.
And we're like, we're going to take 2 weeks off the office. Like, if we knew we were signing off for many years, we're still not fully back in. And some of it's changed forever. I think some people really like working at home, but I talked about we're doing some remodeling, so we kind of can't move back in, but we're like having a day when we're like, hey, let's all try to come back in the office. And I was like, I'm going to the office by myself some days, and like no one's there, and I'm getting kind of sad because I'm seeing the stuff that like, there's a collection of tea bags. People used to care about tea at the office, and no one cares about tea anymore. They're all at home. And I was like, they never want to come back because they're with their cats and their dogs, and they're not going to want to come back here. And I said, hey, who wants to come back in this day? And like 50 people signed up to come back, and I was like, I was really touched. I was like, people do like people.
Yeah.
They want to come back and hang around with other people.
Yeah, I mean, face-to-face time is real hard.
What we're like.
Yeah. 30 years. 30. I keep saying 30. It's like 33, right? I don't know.
1989, yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's an amazing career, and like Double Fine, I hope you keep making just amazing things.
Thank you so much.
I mean, it's kind of weird. Hall of Fame, I get it, but you're not done making games. You're still making cool shit.
I know. That's what these awards are. Like, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to let younger people make games. I'm totally trying to do that, everybody. But I got just a couple ideas. I do have a couple ideas for games I'm really excited about that I'm
Yeah.
prototyping and stuff. So
I look forward to the next 20 years with whatever you come up with. So.
thank you so much, Eka.
Miyazaki's at what, 85, 80?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's still making stuff.
exactly. Yeah. It looks good. I got to work on that hairstyle. He still looks.
And you got to
good.
pick up smoking too.
I mean, I'm really excited about making games now when we don't have to make them on tear. You know, I still have like these moments of like flashbacks. So like I go to bed at night and I'm like, how am I going to pay everybody in 3 months? I'm like, oh wait, it's fine. I can go to sleep. I'm just not like, but it still comes to you. And I think in some ways your brain protects you from all that stuff. And now it's letting it all out. It's like 30 years of terror, like seeping back into my brain, just in little doses that my brain thinks I can handle.
Cheers, friend.
Cheers. Thanks for playing. Thank you so much, Eka.
All right, that's our time.
Nice glasses. You take that home.
All right, you take it home.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.